You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Wepa, what I mean, it's your boy Al Mega. Welcome to a brand new Comic Crusaders podcast. And today, we're going to get into some childhood goodness here, as you could tell from the back screen picture, all right? We're talking to an amazing writer, creator. I mean, this is Moon Girl's daddy right here. You know what I mean? Hey, this is fire and a lot more. You know, Rocket Girl. I mean, he's been in the business for a minute. He's touched things, you know, DC as well, and all over the place. But now he's touching Dynamite, Disney, bringing us some gold. Hey, you know what I mean? Screws you like that. Let's go. The one, the only, the incredible Mr. Brendan Montclare. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great, and I hope I live up to that intro. That's something else.
Hey, man, you're a big boss, brother. You know, thank you for wanting to hang out with me and chat about this amazing new run coming from Dynamite Entertainment. You know, in DuckTales. I can't wait to see what you're gonna do with this universe. But you know, I always want to take it back just a tad. You know, for those that are unfamiliar with the legend of the Montclareverse. You know what I mean? So, so let us know where you're originally from. And I always love to ask this question. What was the first thing in fandom that you fell in love with?
Where I'm from is New York. I live in New York City. Grew up in the suburbs. I know you're a local, so I don't want to. But I grew up in Westchester County, so about a half hour north of New York City. But live in Manhattan now, downtown in Greenwich Village. So I'm right in the middle of it all. So I've been working for a bunch of years, doing all kinds of different stuff. But the first fandom that I fell in love with. If you're a really little kid, I remember collecting Smurfs when they were new. So that's not really. I don't know if I fell in love with them or not, but that was the first thing. And then, like everything else, I watched a lot of DuckTales, but I was more maybe as a kid into the rough and tumble stuff, which would be the typical G.I. Joe and Star Wars and all that, He-Man and all that kind of stuff. And the oddball things, I liked a lot of action figures, a lot of comics. Chris Star was a cool action figure. Inhumanoids, there's a lot of cool stuff, right? So,
yeah, I want the new Chris Star figure, because that was my first comic book ever, was Chris Star #2.
Right.
So this new figure, I want it so bad. I can't wait to go to the next con.
Yeah. I got two older brothers. They're twins of each other, so they're both 4 years older than me. So there was always a lot of comic books around. And, question that I sometimes get, and all creators sometimes get, is what's your first comic? And I really can't remember, but kind of working backwards, I think it was, I remember owning a Marvel team up with, of all characters, it was always Spider-Man and someone else, right? And it was, of all the oddball characters it could have been, it was Spider-Man and Star Fox. So it was a pretty random issue. So that might have been my first comic book. I certainly love comic books too. So maybe that was one of my first loves. I don't know. I'm a rolling stone.
Is that the one where they also did the when the first appearance of the White Rabbit, when he teamed up with Frogman? Was it there in Marvel Team Up? Was it him?
I seem to remember that really great cover with that. Yeah. It is White Rabbit. I would call her Rabbit Girl, but White Rabbit I think was the right thing.
Yeah, that was my first. If that's the team up, then that's my first team up ever, and it was Anyway, so all right, so growing up, you're a New York guy. So comics a little over around you. But were you cool as a kid and the geek? Did you have kind of a tribe, or did you only keep that in the house?
No, I was always pretty. It was never anything to be ashamed of. Comics, as far as I'm concerned, it was always pretty good. Like I said, it was always around when you're a little kid. Obviously, nobody cares. But even before my first year in high school, I started selling, because I had a collection, and my father lived in the city, but like I said, I grew up in the suburbs, but my parents were divorced. But I would do the local conventions. They had the Great Eastern Conventions at the Roosevelt Hotel every month, and I would have tables there as, like I said, not even quite going to high school. Between the summer before I started high school, I would do those monthly shows, and I thought that was pretty cool, so I was always kind of interested in collecting and kind of buying and selling. And then by the time I was 19, I bought into this would have been the mid 90s when all of the shops are going through a lot of trouble. And,
man. Laura Comics, rest in peace, man.
Yeah.
I love that shop, but he would look so stressed. Oh, I had to order X amount, but now nobody's buying.
Yeah, right. So like it was after the death of Superman and after like the Image boom and the Valiant boom. So a lot of stores were struggling. And as a 19-year-old and having, had some experience doing the monthly conventions, I was able to buy into the store up in Westchester. And I thought it was cool at 19 to be able to do that. And
you live in the dream. You live in the geek dream.
Yeah,
I was dreaming in the hood.
Yeah, and that was Alternate Realities in Scarsdale, which unfortunately closed, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago now. But it was, went a good long time, obviously. I didn't stay in it that long. As cool as it was at 19, maybe I didn't think it was so cool in my mid-20s. And my wife, I've been married that long. She was relocating out to California for work for a couple of years. So I said, this is a good time. So I kind of went out with her. Obviously, I went out with her. We were married by going out to the West Coast. And and then I got into the publishing side of things. And it's been,
nice.
So that's where I got my work. First at a company called Tokyo Pop, which did translations. And they were also working on
land on Tokyo Pop. I mean, that's a nice one.
Well, like I said, I kind of had nothing to do. My wife is totally different than I am. She's a chemical engineer, and she had just. I'll say this because it sounds like I'm bragging, but it has nothing to do with me. She had just finished her PhD at Yale University up in Connecticut. So she is of good stock, and I was kind of the dumb guy who did comics. But
as a chemical engineer, all I say is you better be a good boy. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So she had an assignment out there. They call it a postdoc, right? So you do that kind of before you get your kind of long-term job. So that was for 2 years out in California, and I had nothing really to do. So I went back to school. And started as even though I was in my mid-20s, mid-20s, I guess. I think I was 26, something like that. I still did an internship at Tokyo Pop, and then that quickly turned into a little bit of freelance work. They did a lot of translations, but they were also at that time trying to do new material in the manga style. And a lot of people out there in that office were not from comics. They were from like magazines and books and stuff like that. So the fact that I knew something about comics made me a little bit valuable. And then I worked out there for a bit. And then we relocated back to New York. My wife works for NYU. And I got a job at DC Comics and was there for a few years and then left and started doing the writing thing. I did some writing before. I did some writing at Tokyo Pop and over the years here and there, but not full time till I left DC editor. I was an editor at DC for a while working on some cool.
But what inspired the writing, though, even more after that point? Like when you said, okay, I don't want to do editing anymore. I need to come out. That's it. Do my thing. You know what I mean? Come out that writer's closet, if you will, and create.
Yeah, I really loved editing. A lot of editors always kind of have the interest in writing, and maybe want to, go into writing or even art and stuff like that. I was an editor at DC and then Vertigo. Before me by a couple of years was Cliff Chang, who's drawn a million things, does Paper Girls recently and a lot of stuff. So he was an editor also. But I don't know Cliff's long-term goals were. I'm sure it's an artist. I'm sure he always wanted to be an artist. That takes a lot more time and dedication. But I really loved editing. But I was a pretty good writer, and I just had the opportunity. My first daughter was born. I have two of them now. And I said, well, it's back then you didn't have remote work, right? Because it was before COVID and all that. And I said, I can kind of be in the office all day, but I can kind of take my shot and do some writing. And that's what it was. I had a little bit of experience doing it, like I said, at Tokyo Pop and doing kind of like backup stories and fillers. Tokyo Pop was interesting because it was all younger creators because it was in that manga style and it was, it wasn't like big budget stuff where you could pay tons of people. So you needed sometimes to try out an artist and, someone needed to come up with a script. So I came up with a few scripts for people to draw and wasn't too much experience there, but I got more experience working at the DC Comics and then was able to, like most people in the business, I got an 8-page Hulk backup story first and then a mini series. And then I went over and did Rocket Girl for Image and then went back to Marvel, Moon Girl for a long time and that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's not. Yeah.
How exciting is it to bring create something new for such an old brand like Marvel, for example? You know what I mean? And them has been around for a while, of course, too. So, how do you feel about bringing these new items that take off? No pun intended with Rocket Girl, but
Mhm.
I mean they literally take off, right? You know, Moon Girl got a cartoon out, everything product.
Yeah.
Uh, kids love that character. A wonderful job. Thank you for doing something like that. You know,
Yeah.
cool ass character. But what inspired all that and made you want to do something new, like especially with the Double Dinosaur, Jack Kirby, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of Moon Girl did start with Rocket Girl, which was Rocket Girl. I created with Amy Reeder, who I worked with on a book called Madame Xanadu. When wasn't a
Mm.
creator on it, I was the assistant editor while that was over in Vertigo. So I was leaving. She had done after Madame Xanadu some Batwoman and some other things, and kind of wanted to do her own thing, and I wanted to do my own thing, and the timing was right. So we actually did a little book called Halloween Eve on Kickstarter, and then we did Rocket Girl, which was actually Kickstarter first, and then Image picked it up. And on that, on the strength of that, Marvel just said, "Hey, we like what you did on Rocket Girl. Can you come and do something for us?" And we had a meeting where we were supposed to talk about what characters we might be able to work on. And we figured it was going to be a long list, and
Yeah.
we were newer creators then, and I had the preference, which a lot of creators do sometimes, to work on something more obscure, right? That it's not like they were offering me Amazing Spider-Man, but at the same time, if you work on something that's not as popular, you get to do a little bit more with it. You don't have to be so
A little bit
beholden.
more freedom, yeah.
Yeah, the more
You get
creative.
also the mythology of it.
Yeah. And as the
Like,
story goes, the first thing that they said, the editor Mark Panicia said, "Oh, what about Devil Dinosaur?" And I remembered the character, and Amy had absolutely no interest in doing anything called Devil Dinosaur. But shortly after Mark Panicia, the editor, said, "Oh, Devil Dinosaur," he goes, "Yeah, and you can do a new character and like Moon Girl, because Moon Boy was a supporting character
yeah.
in the old series, and Jack Kirby's the king, but he only got 9 issues out of Devil Dinosaur. It all took place on this place called Dinosaur World, for readers who aren't familiar, where basically dinosaurs ate cavemen and other dinosaurs all day. So the idea was you can bring it into modern times, and you can have this kind of girl as a supporting character. And as you developed it, it became, first we were working on Devil Dinosaur, and we only thought it was going to last 6 issues, So first it was
done. That's it.
First it was Devil Dinosaur, then it was Devil Dinosaur and Moon Girl, and then it was Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur by the time it shipped. And we did it for Amy left after a few issues, but I was on it for 1,000 pages just about, and it was a lot of fun. And you asked what the difference is. I think if I hadn't done my own thing like I did on Rocket Girl, maybe I would have been more not protective, but more precious about Moon Girl. And Moon Girl has to be done my way. Definitely, when I approached Moon Girl, said, "I'm doing a Marvel book now." And what makes Marvel great is not just what pages over the last 50 years to make one big continuous story. So I definitely made Lunella Lafayette. She's good at science, like Peter Parker and Reed Richards and and everybody else, and the alliterative LL name with her and everything else. So I tried to really design a Marvel character that would fit in the Marvel universe. And as much as I love doing it, to me, it's always a part that other people are working with that character now, putting their own spin on it, just like I did with Devil Dinosaur, right? So by the time it's the cartoon, it's quite different. And a part of you might say, "Oh, why did they change that? They didn't like that idea. I thought that was so important."
Yeah.
But I've never been really that way about that book. I'm very excited when people take a new twist on it, and I'm glad that it was able to reach a bigger audience, because as many people as we reached with the book, the cartoon reaches so many more. So yeah.
Oh man, and talking, I see that, I like that. It was segueing for he's mentioning cartoons and stuff. And we're about to talk about this iconic cartoon that my man is about to work on via a comic book series mini. We're gonna learn all about this now. I have a PowerPoint and everything, so let me bring up the PowerPoint. We're gonna talk about these covers and all, and that's it. You gotta start telling us the story here, my friend. Like, how did this whole conversation come about with DuckTales of all friends? I mean, I was a DuckTales fan. That's my homie right here. Like, talk to me.
Yeah. So I didn't know it was going to be DuckTales at first. I was contacted by Dynamite. They asked, are you interested in doing a Disney book? And they had already, this was a bit ago, it was a while ago, but they had already done Darkwing Duck. They did Nightmare Before Christmas. I think there's a Lilo and Stitch book that there definitely is a Lilo and Stitch book. I think that was out at the time. So they had already put out a bunch of Disney things from all over the history of Disney. And so I said, okay, well, there's some stuff I would definitely want to work with. After Moon Girl, which is about 4 years since my last issue on that, even more now probably. But, I've been working a lot on original things that are like for the book market. So they're much longer format, working on behind the scenes stuff for film and TV and games and stuff like that. So I really
I know you're getting it in on that side too, brother.
Yeah, and I like that stuff. But I've always been a comic fan. I've always been the guy that goes on Wednesday, now sometimes Tuesday, right, to get into comic. And like I said, I owned a comic book shop, a local, just like anybody else, living the dream. And I said, well, it would be nice to be on a monthly title again. So hopefully they'll be offering me something cool. And it was Nate Cosby, the editor. And he said DuckTales, and I was like, "Oh man, I couldn't think of anything I'd rather do than that." And that's sincere, because I don't know how much your viewers are familiar with it, but the legacy of Uncle Scrooge as a character in comics, going back to the 50s, is tremendous. And as big as DuckTales is here, and for fans who know Uncle Scrooge here, like you go to Europe now, and they're still making Uncle Scrooge comics. You go to the Netherlands, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie are on postage stamps. I mean, they're huge characters internationally. And there was a golden age artist, Carl Barks, who's a Hall of Famer. And then in the 90s, Don Rosa did a lot of stuff with Uncle Scrooge. So to me, it was such a prestigious title, but still kind of had enough distance that I'm doing DuckTales. I'm not doing Uncle Scrooge. Yeah. So it's like, it's kind of the cartoon also. So there was almost like not the pressure of the Uncle Scrooge legacy. And maybe people or you're familiar with the Jason Aaron book that came out a month ago, or Marvel did a whole Uncle Scrooge and the Infinity Dime. So it was just
yes.
So like to me, it's like Uncle Scrooge is such a big deal, and it's such a great character. I'm definitely on board. And the DuckTales book that we're doing is very much it's a 1987 continuity, so it follows the continuity of the original series of the cartoon.
Okay, is it like based off the last episode, or kind of stories within?
Yeah, just stories in that universe, as opposed to there's a reboot a few years ago. So it's not the reboot stuff; it's the classic stuff. And that classic stuff was so influenced by the old Uncle Scrooge, Carl Barks comics, and all the other stuff in the history. It's like, wow, this is just kind of the perfect opportunity to work on it. And again, you're a fan, and I'm a big fan of the old cartoon, and watched it when I was a kid.
Loved it. Yeah.
It's so much more in it. It's a ton of. There's like I call it the influence feedback loop of Indiana Jones, right? And there's George Lucas and Spielberg. Both of them have talked about how much they loved Uncle Scrooge comics when they were a kid, and the big rolling ball in the first Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's from an old Uncle Scrooge comic where the Beagle Boys are chasing them, and there's
the Beagle Boys, other legendary characters.
They're going after a golden totem, and then the big rolling ball chases after it. So it's you kind of have the golden age comics from the 40s and 50s, and then that leads to Indiana Jones, and I think DuckTales was definitely influenced a lot by Indiana Jones. And then here, now we're doing more DuckTales that goes back to the comics, and like I said, a circle of everything. So it's going to really be concentrating on kind of the treasure hunting adventure of all that stuff. And it's I hope I hope I do it justice. Yeah.
Because you're talking about that old school feel. This kind of reminds me. I remember seeing when they used to do they used to do the Go Key, right? Used to do the comics.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
I
Yeah.
remember back when I was a little kid, there used to be the flea markets on the hood, not block parties,
Mhm.
but flea markets. So there used to be this one old man come out the basement, nothing but
Mhm.
Disney comics. I used to buy
Yeah.
stacks, 10 cents each. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Sure.
so I
Sure.
remember, like, beautiful. So this kind of really takes me back, this cover, to something, from that era. Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. And all the interior art, which I know you have some of, and the covers
Oh yeah,
and
we can
most
show
of
it
the
off.
covers. But it's a lot of these guys, and then they have the classic stuff. But a lot Tommaso Ronda, he's Italian. He's doing the interiors, but like I said, in Europe, Uncle Scrooge and all the Disney stuff has been very. They're still producing comics, and for whatever reason, Disney doesn't really release the European stuff here in America, and doesn't release the American stuff in
Oh,
Europe. So,
sadly,
but the guys who are drawing most of the Disney stuff, and certainly Tommaso, who's doing, like, you're seeing now that interior work. It's they're like Italian studio artists who have been working on Disney books for years and years and years. So they, like,
nice.
are
Spin with
definitely
style.
you definitely know what they're doing, and you don't have, like I said, and it sometimes takes 3 or 4 or maybe more issues to kind of get in sync with an artist. But these guys are so good at what they do, and Tommaso's so good at what he does. It's right there, and it's everything that I saw in my head is on the page, plus a little
Oof.
bit more. And yeah, it's just going to be great, great stuff. And it's a classic feel. It's definitely not meant to be any kind of reinvention or reinterpretation. It's
Thank you.
yeah, and like I said, if I've always felt that, if I want to do my own thing, I have Rocket Girl, I have other creator-owned stuff that's coming out. Even Moon Girl is a new character, right? Even though I with my blessing, she goes off and becomes a part of the Marvel universe. But to me, it's like, yeah, if you're going to do Uncle Scrooge and you're going to do DuckTales, it should. There's plenty of stuff that you're inspired by with that old cartoon that it doesn't really need to. You don't need to mess with the characters. You don't need to mess with the setup. It's
Ooh,
great
it's the
stuff.
panel work.
Yeah.
It's the panel
Yep.
work, man. Your artists, I mean, again, folks, just take a look, like, really old school feel when you open to that very first page. Even the credits feel so old school, so nicely done. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and
Even the
yeah,
panel work, everything.
yeah, and it's interesting because, again, with like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, that was a monthly comic, but 90, I want to say 99, but let's say 90 to be safe. 90% of the people who read Moon Girl read it as a collected edition.
Yeah.
Either, and obviously you could buy those at comic stores, but it's more like Amazon, and Moon Girl sold a ton of books at Scholastic book fairs. For people who are familiar, like when they're in the school and you can go buy and choose books.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I remember those days, bro. I used to go,
yeah,
please, mom, you better
yeah,
get A in this.
yeah, yeah. And so Scholastic, from even before Moon Girl came out, was so behind and invested in doing Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur through that channel, through those book fairs. So I'm kind of used to writing these single issues that are really only going to be read when they're all collected one day. So
Yeah.
if you flip back to that first page or something, I said, oh, let's have a nice, like, a lot of design for the first page and all that lettering that you see along the bottom, and even that long angular panel. So the first page and the last page of every issue is is kind of designed the same to really give you like a chapter break feeling. So I said, well, you can obviously just put like a big black panel, or you could do something that's kind of bulky, or you do what they call a design page where they put some kind of background art. But I said, no, it's like, let's make it look like an old school comic and do extra, all the tons of lettering and all the different fonts and get people excited. So
Yeah,
yeah, we're definitely calling back to all that stuff. And yeah,
gorgeous. I mean, the coloring, everything, just everything, dude.
yeah,
Your letterer is boss too. I mean, just look
yeah,
at that.
yeah.
Like, bro, who's your letterer?
Except it's on the first page there, and like I said, it's all done by like I said, yeah, it's the
Fabio
artist does the
Amelia.
color,
There we
yeah,
go.
and the artist is doing the colors and on top of it, and yeah, there's going to be a lot of good stuff. And if you look even back at the old, like I said, the Carl Barks stuff in the 40s and 50s and into the 60s, it's all like I would say it's pretty much all like an 8-panel grid. 2.
Yeah.
And so, for the first 5 issues, there's like a couple of flashbacks in because it's about the first few stories are about Scrooge kind of building up Duckburg, and the idea being like he's traveled all over the world, but hey, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, there's adventures right outside your door. Like the library has a story behind it, the movie theater has a story behind it, even the jail, the city jail has a story behind it, and that's kind of what it's all about. But we also didn't want to ignore that these old stories take place all over the world. They take place in outer space. They do all the other things. So there's flashbacks to Scrooge in his younger days, and those are all done in the old Barks style. So I think people are going to be excited.
Oh, yeah. Folks, you hear this? Oh, I'm excited. Oh my God. So, all right. So what's the plan here? Is this a mini? This is going to be ongoing? Do I have to put this on my pull list like for the rest of my life, or just 6 months at a time? Like what's happening here?
Well, yeah. If like I said, if you're the single comic audience, it always helps.
I am. That's me.
Yeah, it always helps to put on the pull list. But it's an ongoing series, which is great. I got working on the first year of stories, and see where it goes past that. But yeah, it'll be every month. Like I said, the first 5 issues are what I'm talking about. Kind of explore Duckburg. So the trick was to make them all fit together, but then they also work as standalone chapters, which is, kind of always the way you're kind of supposed to do it, right? Where it's, you could pick up issue 3 and it'll be fine to read, and you get your beginning and middle and end and an action and adventure, and it can fit right in, and that's how we're doing it. Yeah.
Are you telling me we're gonna get the story, also some of those villainous characters and how they got integrated into Duckburg, if you will?
Oh yeah. So issue 2 is you go back to some history with Magica Dispel, who's one of my favorites. Ma Beagle and the Beagle Boys are in issue 3, and so
I love those two. I love them though.
So all the supporting characters, we wanted to keep it on what we call the core 4, which I stole from the Yankees.
Okay, the Yankees is the best baseball team ever. It's all right, everybody. It's okay. No matter what, hate me. It's all right.
But, so meaning of course Scrooge and Huey, Dewey, and Louie, because you don't have tons of room on the comic page. So the first few issues focus on them, and you'll see Launchpad in the background, and you'll see Gyro Gearloose tooling away at something, and maybe they'll talk to Duckworth about something. But by issue 6, which is, just because the way it's shipping, I don't know if we're going to do plan A or plan B, but whatever the plan is, I'm very conscious, like every single character is going to be in that. And then you'll see, like I said, more of the cartoon characters who are the supporting characters. Definitely, like I said, as the series goes on, you're going to get all those guys in there.
I cannot wait. And folks, again, I've been showing this and keeping it on screen because as he talks, you guys need to start going to your favorite local comic book shop right now. Get this on your pull list because this is going to be dropping in November. All right, that's the plan, right? The plan.
November. It's November 6th. It's on the cover of Previews magazine. That big phone book that's where comic shops do their ordering out of. So if you ask for it, they'll know what it is and make sure to keep a copy for you.
So let me immediately update that, and you inform me of the day. You see, November 6th of this year, mi gente, you gotta get this book. Listen, if you're already a fan of his previous work, he already dropped that knowledge. If you don't know what I'm talking about, instead of me repeating it, go and rewind and listen to everything this man has been telling you. Like, this man is a legend, and he's working on a legendary, iconic brand right here in DuckTales that I'm a fan of. So I'm excited for how he's gonna bring and build this universe, with the Montclare verse style, baby. You know what I mean? I can't wait. So, what's up, brother? I know there's cons coming up. Things are going on. Are you going to be making any appearances anywhere where fans could meet you, get a book signed and whatnot?
Yeah, well, stay tuned. Certainly, if you're in the the New York area, I hope to do a lot of different signings. New York Comic Con, it's kind of like it's a local show, and sometimes the one you kind of don't think about. So I'm not going to be an artist alley. I've been there before, but I'm sure Dynamite's going to have a booth, and so if they do, and I assume they're going to invite me, and it's only a subway ride away, and then getting all the way west. But I'll be at New York Comic Con. I'm guessing, although no plans. But and shops in the area, and a lot of these guys all do mail order now too. So if you're looking for signed stuff, and it's Dynamite, so there's going to be tons of different covers to choose from, right?
Tons. I already showed you a whole bunch, folks, in the thing, and by the time this comes out, there'll probably be another 10 more. And again, it's making part of a nice wall design, especially if you're a big fan. And you can stay tuned on all that at for Dynamite Entertainment via their website at dynamite.com. All right, but again, this is what you really got to do. Again, go to your LCS website if they have one. Get it added to LCS. Call them right after this podcast. After the podcast, say, "Yo, I need this book added to my pull list right now." This is the jam right here. This is DuckTales. Come on, yo, a big boss right here. Brandon Montclare on this with an amazing artist that know what's going on with that universe and know how to draw and that style. Come on, folks, you ain't getting nothing wrong here. This is the perfect book for you, your kids, everybody. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and we really were conscious about making it all ages, and I felt I did that on Moon Girl, the comic version of it. It was really important that it's, there's plenty of things, I think, when you think of kids' books that are maybe, very one-dimensional and for very little kids. I think even more common than that, you see kids' books that are really designed for parents who buy books for their kids. But no, this is, as much as you think of Disney, to me, it's like, the old Bugs Bunny cartoons, the old Warner Brothers stuff where, you can still watch it now and it's so funny. Or work on different levels, or even something like The Simpsons, right? Where I have an 8-year-old who can watch The Simpsons and laugh and really enjoy it, but there's a lot of jokes that go over her head. So there's a lot of like all ages stuff. It's very much about three young boys who look up to their uncle as a hero and kind of that dynamic and stuff like that. So I think there really is, at least we try to put in there something for everybody. And again, keep it adventure and keeping it fun, and I think it's a book that you're gonna want to read, whether you're a little kid or an old man who's still a little kid in that heart.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm an old man, but I have a young soul, and I definitely, I stay in tune with it, and it's okay. That's what keeps me young, and as should everybody. I mean, stay with what you enjoy, and somebody don't like it, screw them. You don't need them. How dare they?
One of us is we all both there. Type it in.
Okay, I'm sorry. You broke up a bit over here.
There's a delay with the back and forth.
All right. Yeah, there's a huge delay right now, and you're kind of frozen, but I can still hear you.
What's that?
This is New York internet, folks, and Massachusetts. They're battling. That's because I'm in Mass right now, so it's just the New York and Mass battling. Typically, stop it. Internet companies from other states, we're fine. Don't do this. They don't want us to talk about the DuckTales.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
It's going to be the greatest book on the planet.
Now we just caught up. Yeah, looks like we just caught up.
There we go.
Maybe not. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're good.
See my hand wave. There we go. Wonderful. We're back, folks. We are back on time. The Matrix is allowing us to speak. The frequency in the algorithm is back online. We got the algorithm too excited. People started hearing DuckTales and they went nuts. Nuts.
Yeah. It's an interesting point because being a guy that works in comics and surrounded by a lot of pros and people, like I said, who've known Uncle Scrooge and known Carl Barks and known all these things that the average person, unless you're a hardcore comics fan, you might not. And even if you are a hardcore comics fan, you may have never heard of. But everybody knows DuckTales. I tell people know who I'm. Like I said, I'm picking up my daughter on the line from school, and everyone's DuckTales, and then they start singing the song. It's as big as exactly.
Don't get me started. I've been holding it in.
like, yeah, everybody remembers DuckTales, and because it holds up. I mentioned some of those things before. There'll always be a spot in my heart for He-Man, but I don't know if all those old cartoons hold up.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
I watched the other day.
Yeah,
with the repeat panels. It's so funny. It's like
exactly.
Yeah, like, did I just like 3 minutes ago? Like, what's going on here? All right, whatever.
Yeah, or not just 3 minutes ago, maybe 3 episodes ago, also, right? So,
all right, also the same scene, right?
Like I said, Voltron as a kid, it was there was always a lot of build up, and there'd be a lot of fighting, and then they'd all come together. But by the time Voltron came together, there would never be a fight. It would just be like you come together, and then you'd see like the lines of his sword going, and then the Robeast would explode, and it was like, well, there was never a big fight. There's never a big fight, But
agreed.
I guess, like I said, when you're a little kid, you don't know that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as you know,
but the DuckTales was
right there.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have a Voltron. I got my goodies.
Such
He-Man.
Yeah.
I'm a sicko with my fandom. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot. Yeah.
I'm a sicko. All right. But do no for real. I really do.
But certainly something you can tell your friends about too, and get them because.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, for real.
Because everybody remembers DuckTales, so I think it's going to be popular. I think it's going to do well for Dynamite.
I think it's going to be absolutely amazing for Dynamite. I think this is the right property in that Disneyverse that's going to touch different generations. So I really can't wait to see how people embrace this when it drops on November 6th, folks. Right, but pre-order right now. Let's make that a sellout title right now for Dynamite at the distributor level. Let's make that happen, please. You know what I mean? There's Brandon Montclare in the house, and folks, you want to know what Brandon's up to? He got a website, brandonmontclair.com, right? I can tell you, he got his socials on Xmed on Instagram. That's the letter B, Montclair. All right, right there, Xmed on Instagram. You can't get that wrong. But and of course, Dynamite. A big shout out to them for bringing Montclair up into the DuckTales universe. Again, I'm excited. So visit Dynamite Entertainment website at dynamite.com, folks. That's what we do. Any last words, my brother Brandon? Like, what's pop? Let them know. Like, if you could give me an elevator pitch right now to convince me to buy it. Like, we're at a comic shop. I'm looking at this book right now. What would you tell me that would convince me to buy it?
Oh man, you're the first one to ask me that, so that means I gotta
come up. New York hustle, baby.
Yeah, I know. Right? No, I should have had it already in mind, though, right? So you usually get asked that question a few times, and then you develop something good and it becomes automatic. But I got to think of now. I got to think of it, and I've already blown the elevator.
Question, yeah.
I've already taken too long and ruined it. But no, it's it's an adventure series. In the spirit of the old cartoon and the old comics, and even if you obviously don't need to know anything about the old comics and the old cartoons, but if you like Indiana Jones, if you like kids going after, like even like Goonies, right? Kids going after treasures and stuff like that. If you like the '80s vibe of things, it's all there, but it's also it's all current creators doing modern approach to it, but it's nothing that's going to, like I said, disappoint old school fans.
See, that helps. That helps me. I would feel very comfortable coming from the writer telling me like that. Mm-hmm. You convinced me. I would pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
I would pick it up. Just give me more of that New York flow. You're Manhattan. You got to give me that village flow. Boom, boom, boom. Come on, you got this. All right. Hopefully, I went into you at New York Comic Con. And
please.
For you. I'll do. I'll bring the web out over there. Don't you worry. But folks, for real, all the links below in the show notes. All right. Follow, support amazing creators like Brandon, and show that love for this book. Go to your LCS, give them a buzz, or website, whatever it is that you use. All right, to get your favorite Dynamite Entertainment comic books. That's where you're going right now, and make sure you put this on pre-order and your pull list. All right, and get all them covers. All right, they're sexy. They're dope. And there's gonna probably be a whole lot more by the time this drops in November. So you're gonna have a plethora to choose from, and it's gonna be fun. But get them all. Why not? And with that, I'm Al Mega with the amazingly talented Brandon Montclare, the big boss in the building. We out, kiddo. Hasta la próxima, mi gente. Much love. Thank everybody that tuned in. You know what it is. Hasta la próxima. Wepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.